back to Awkward Insurance. We've already had a great conversation before the episode even started. All right, we are still running headstrong into demystifying parts of the insurance industry that are a frequent point of contention or confusion. It could be a coverage part that you're confused about. It could be the type of client that we all know we don't want to pick up the phone for. It could be an industry relationship. Really, it could be anything. We're just picking out topics, and really, Ash and I, coming from the insurance industry and our guests, ingrained within the insurance industry, we just kind of give our perspective on what we've felt, what we've dealt with. So, dear awkward listener, this is to you. If there's anything annoying, awkward, confusing, part of your role, career path, or coverage you'd like explored, or you'd just like us to complain about for you, in order to maintain your own composure, send us a message. You can find us on Facebook, on the Awkward Insurance Facebook group. We are loving all of the engagement that goes on within that group. I absolutely adore all the private messages that I get and get to know each and every one of you. So reach out to us there and just let us know. What do you think? What do you want to think? What do you want to say, but you can't say? Let's hear it all. Ashley, welcome back to Awkward Insurance for 2024. I had a hard time getting that one out of my mouth. How are you? I'm so happy to see your face today.
I'm so glad to see your face. I was starting to think man, are we even doing this podcast anymore? It's been so long, I feel like.
I know. How is everything going up in Ohio? We were just having a conversation about how our guest and I, we're both from Maumelle, Arkansas, and we're fixing to get hit. That's an Arkansas word. Fixing to get hit with egregiously low temperatures. I think I saw a meme last night that says, when the temperature drops below my double-digit age, I'm not going outside.
Oh, I love that.
So how's it in Ohio?
Everything is awesome up here. I mean, the weather is obviously cold because it's Ohio, but lots of great things happening at OIA. I just took on I'm obviously already the director of professional development, but I just took on the events coordination as well. And we are going to be having
put into the podcast for this producer Matt. Yay! Celebrate.
And in March, we're having our very first Women's Leadership Summit that I'm running, which is going to be super exciting.
I saw that. How exciting is that? What do you have planned for this women's exclusive event?
It's a secret.
Oh, gosh. Oh, darn. Listen, can we get an exclusive here on the podcast at least?
I mean, you can, because by the time this gets out, then it's going to be probably already public information. So it's all good. We're going to be doing, we're having the one and only Meg McKean is coming. So that's going to be very exciting. It's a very limited size group because we wanted it to intentionally be smaller for better interactions. So we're limiting it to 50 tickets, and it's going to be held at Westfield Center.
Yeah, what's the purpose? What's the point? What do you hope to achieve with it?
Just to help women forge better relationships within the industry. I mean, how many times, I think the first time I was ever on this podcast, I said it's affectionately referred to as pale, male, and stale. And it's hard enough, as women to get places in this industry. And on top of that, it's hard to balance all the things that we balance. Great. So you're an insurance agent, or you're a producer, or you're an underwriter, but now you're going home and you're picking up the kids and you're hoping they bring their snow jacket home and they're not dragging it on the ground. And then, oh, by the way, I have to make dinner tonight and I forgot to get the groceries. How do you even balance all of that? So it's just basically a place for women to get together and realize, hey, you're not alone. You're not the only one feeling this way, and we can all help one another.
I absolutely love that. And it's everything that I do in my normal day too. And when people are like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't really understand how I don't do it.
You just do.
And when I think into the future, and maybe Terrie can expand on this, once the kids are out of the house, I'm like, well, then what the heck am I going to do with myself? Terrie, what do you do with yourself now that your kids are grown? And
well, we stay busy because we got a cattle farm. So after work, there's usually chores to do. I'm pretty active at the gym. I go to the gym 3 or 4 nights a week. So a lot of walking. You find things to do. Cooking is a lot easier. What you cook tonight, you probably can eat tomorrow night. We have leftovers. If you don't eat it tomorrow night, you can have it for the next night. So,
oh my God, isn't that the truth? Meals and dinner are struggle numero uno.
And a whole lot less laundry.
I actually enjoy doing laundry. Well, let me introduce the voice that you just heard. We have Terrie Strain with us today. I have been emailing her for a hot minute. I believe I met a colleague of hers at the PIA of Arkansas and then again at Big I of Arkansas, really wanting to talk with an underwriter. I don't think we've had an underwriter on the podcast yet.
I don't think we have.
I don't think we have either. And I love underwriters. As an agent and as a service professional, I always loved getting on the phone with underwriters. Sometimes it was to argue with them about whether or not they were going to accept a piece of business that I submitted. Sometimes it was to, asking for a friend. I have a question to see what they would say. But my relationships with underwriters, I always adored them. They always gave me a piece of analytical information that my brain was craving. So I was super happy to be introduced to Terrie Strange. She's a commercial underwriter at Med James, has been at Med James for at least 14 years, if not longer. But I'll stop there and let Terrie give us her background a little bit.
Well, as you said, I started in Med James at 2010. Prior to that, I started in the insurance industry as doing an internship coming out of college. And I did an internship at a company in Conway, and I worked for the vice president in that company for a while. And then he started easing me into the commercial underwriting, and he had meetings every morning, and Mike would encourage me to go to the meetings, and I'd go to the meetings. And one day he said, "You got a knack for this. You got this." And so he started letting me underwrite some stuff. So I started underwriting, and then I left that company and I went to Med James, and I've been at Med James since 2010. So it is my 14th year now at Med James, and I work out of the Little Rock office, which is basically, it's Maumelle. We're in Maumelle, but Med James, the home office, is in Overland Park, Kansas. And so we have 6 other regional offices. We have the Little Rock, Maumelle, Las Vegas, Colorado, Phoenix. There's one in North Carolina, and then one in Springfield, Missouri. So, but I'm out of the Maumelle, but I do get to work out of my home. So
very nice.
I'm out of Maumelle too, and I get to work out of my home. Do you actually walk outside every once in a while, or do you it's 2 or 3 days and you suddenly walk outside and you realize it's been a while?
I'm actually one of those. I've worked from home for years. Way before COVID, I was working from home.
You said you had a cattle farm, so you have to walk outside.
Yes. So even though I start at work at 7:30, I still get up at 5. And as soon as it hits daylight, I'll go for a walk, a 2 to 3 mile walk outside every morning. So my morning starts off with a 2 to 3 mile walk. So I do get outside, even in the 20 degrees. Now, next week when it's -3, I'm probably going to go to the gym. So
I don't blame you.
Listen, those are the days where I'd be like, I said I was going to go to the gym, but God's just saying, not today, lady. That's awesome. Terrie, I've spent a lot of time with underwriters within an agency. And so I have my favorites and I had those that I would put on the struggle bus. But from your perspective, describe your relationship with agents. Go anywhere you want with that. Is it a good relationship? Is there something where you're like, oh my God, it's this agent calling again? And of course, be as PC as you can because you are still a Med James underwriter.
That is right.
Wait, before we jump into that, because you just said before we even jump into that one, let's clarify something really quick here, because 80% of the constituency of our members here at OIA are multi-generational family agencies that are smaller. They're not super big. And I've been in the insurance industry for how many years? And until I met Steve and my husband now, I had no idea. And we were a very successful agency. I had no idea what an MGA was. I didn't know what a managing general agency was. And it's probably just because I never had to run into it before. So I think before we go into the relationship aspect of things, Terrie, can you just give people that are newer in the insurance industry or maybe have never even heard of an MGA before exactly what it is and how you guys help agents and carriers?
Yes. So we're AMGA is the same as like a wholesale broker. And so we have contracts with multiple companies, and your independent agents, a lot of them come to us for a quote on something that say your standard market's not going to place. So most of my carriers are what's called the E&S, where excess and surplus lines. It's not going to fit your standard carriers. And so an MGA, we're kind of like the middle person, is my way to describe it, between the agents and the carrier.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. Now let's move on to Dustin's question. Sorry about that. I wanted to make sure we got that out there right from the beginning.
Listen, when I hear the words E&S, I think fun and funner because something about that didn't get placed in the standard market, which means we got a lot of splaining to do.
Oh, yes. Some of them, yes, a lot of explaining, some not so much. But most of my agents I've dealt with, I'm going to say, been at Med James for 14 years. I want to say I started I want to say back 1996, 97 is when I started, something around in there, in the insurance industry. So I've been in the insurance industry for a while. And when I started my first out, a lot of my agents followed me from the prior company to Med James. So I'm going to say probably 80 to 90% of the agents are one that have dealt with me from day one. So a lot of the agents have come along. There are some new ones that come along. There's some that come along and they don't know how to fill out an Accord application. And so that's usually a struggle. So
Why do you think it is that they start out and don't know how, like, where are we failing that agents don't know a basic function of the job?
I think it's because they come from one of the companies that, they can just enter it in the computer, enter all the information in their computer and it quotes it. They don't have to fill it out. They don't have to go through that.
Exactly. We did a ton of commercial business, and I think maybe me personally, if I had to fill out 20 in the 10 years I was there, that's a lot because all of the companies that we had, you put it right into the computer. And the only time I had to fill those out was if it was like for some random one that we had to, farm out to one of our connections that we had.
Ashley, did you enjoy filling out Accord forms?
I mean, I'm a nerd. Of course I did.
I know, right? I'm sitting here thinking,
Yeah.
like, are we supposed to have contention about filling out Accord forms? But I'm like, it's a perfect little form with a spot for everything you need. I guess
but that's what's overwhelming though, is like for the few that I had to fill out, I would go above and beyond and try to be filling in every single thing, and then they'd be like, "Wow, no one ever fills this much stuff out." And I found out like there's so many things on there that don't need to be. So as somebody going into the industry that's new, I could see it being overwhelming. Like, I don't know what to fill out here when really they only have to fill out 20 of the 50 spots, whatever. So
okay, so for me, in order to combat that feeling, because I get it, like if there's a blank white space, there needs to be something there. It was place a color, like a highlight there, like in general. And oh my gosh, I found the most awesome highlighters here recently that I wish I would have had when I was in the agency, because there's a gray one. There is a gray highlighter, and I would love to gray highlight the area that doesn't need to be filled out. So it's just this visual image. Okay, enough nerding out. So they don't know how to fit. The new agents don't know how to fill out the Accord forms. What do you do with that?
Well, most of the time I send them back to them and I call them and then we have to walk through. A lot of the companies now are getting really picky. They do want all them questions filled out, Ashley. They want them all filled out. They don't want you to leave them blank. They want every question answered. I have one company that will send it back and say, hey, these questions wasn't answered. Send it, and so you'll have to get them answered and send it back to them. But yes, a lot of walking through, explaining to them how to fill out an Accord app, just fill in the blanks. To me, it's pretty simple, but I've done it for so long. That's why it's so simple.
do you think so that company that's now sending it back saying, no, we want every single section filled out, was that always that way, or is that now because of the hard market and how hard things are getting to place and how restrictive they're being? Is that something that's changed recently?
It's kind of a new company that we picked up, I want to say in the past couple years. And so they started out being like that, wanting them. And now it's kind of all the other carriers are following course with the hard market. They're saying, hey, this isn't completed all the way, get it completed. So, yeah.
So what I like, this is just where my brain is going. What I'm hearing is that the essentials, the basic skills, the Accord form, sit down. I think that's one thing. And we've had these conversations here recently at the National Alliance about just the direction of conversations, whether it's this talent pipeline gap that may or may not be there. It just may be that we're not placing talent in the right areas anymore. but the generational differences and what happens when the older generation starts to retire, the knowledge transfer issue. There's a knowledge transfer crisis, if you ask me, about some of these. I'll call filling out accord forms a lost art of the insurance industry. So it's a lost art of, like, when I first joined an agency, we still had the filing cabinets that were basically the walls of our office. And you could go in and grab the app. So even if you had never filled out an Accord app before, you could maybe go into another person's file, grab that app, see how it was filled out, and kind of train yourself on it, because there wasn't exactly a course for filling out an Accord app. Or, like you mentioned, Terrie, when you get an incomplete app, whether or not it's part of your actual job description, you have to sit down with that agent and teach them how to fill the app out. This knowledge transfer piece. So it sounds like, especially in this hard market, it's not as easy to just jump in with both feet and know what you're doing, or or assume you can learn it as you go. You've got to have some pretty essential foundational basics in order to accurately get out and quickly get the quotes back that you need for your clients and everything else. My gosh, that knowledge transfer is just creeping back into my vocabulary again. We're going to have to do something about this.
Well, I mean, I like that Terrie takes the time to then call them back and walk them through it. I don't, that she doesn't, like you said, not in her job description, but like, I'm sure that there's plenty of underwriters out there that just send it back and say, no, it's wrong. And now, like, go ask your boss or your manager or whoever your director is to teach you how to do it. So it's nice that, you are taking the time to educate the newer agents on what you need to make it successful for them and for you.
Right.
Yes, and there's some of them that just delete them, won't even work them.
I
If they get an
know.
incomplete app, they just won't, and I'm like, "What?"
That's lazy.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I say. There are underwriters that I loved, and then there were ones that I placed on my imaginary struggle bus. What are some of the things that you wish insurance agents would do to make your underwriting job easier, other than fill out Accord apps accurately?
Right. Give all the loss information up front.
I don't understand. Why do people think that we're not going to find out about it? Like, something I learned in our agency was you teach people how to lie. That doesn't mean they're our client. Obviously, we don't want liars. But if somebody comes to our agency and they said, hey, I want to get a homeowner's quote. We have 2 Rottweilers and a trampoline. Okay, great. Well, I'm sorry, we don't have any, companies that will take you, and so what, you'll have to try somewhere else. And then they go down the street, and now when they go to the next agent, they say, "Oh yeah, we don't have a trampoline, and we just have 2 mixed breeds."
I
So
see
like
what you're saying.
we teach people how to lie, and then that works the opposite way too. Maybe they started at the first guy, and the first guy said, "No, we can't take you." Then they come up to our agency, and then they're lying to us. And then when we go out to inspect it, because we would try to inspect every single one that was within our range to go and see, we'd see the trampoline shoved inside the garage, and then we'd hear the dogs barking. And I grew up with dogs. I know you don't have a mix. You have 2 Rottweilers. I'm not dumb. So it's like we teach people how to lie. So it's like, why not just give us all your information up front and be truthful, and then we can tell you if we can help you or not. And you're going to save us both a lot of time and headaches.
Yeah. So, Terrie, why do you think people won't give that information up front?
You
They wait for us to discover it.
Exactly. I was quoting a bunch of accounts that were coming off a company that was no longer in business, that was shutting down 12/31, and I would say, "Well, what about the lawsuit?" Well, they had a loss, paid $60,000 loss out. Okay, what was damaged? The roof. Did they replace the roof? No, they spray painted it.
I've had one of those.
That's
Oh my
probably,
gosh.
that has been my favorite one. They spray painted the roof, and I said, "I'm not quoting." And they said, "You won't even consider this and exclude the roof?" I'm like, "No, I'm not touching it, period, because you're going to have more issues."
Maybe they used Flex Seal. Maybe they bought all of that as seen on TV Flex Seal.
Something.
It's not just spray painting a roof. I've heard of regranulizing a roof. And the way I think of it is like retreading a tire for truckers. It's absolutely unsafe. You shouldn't do it. Just get another tire, kind of thing.
But there's no coverage for cosmetic.
Well,
right?
maybe not now, but there has been in the past. But
Yeah, there has.
not in the sense of like, oh, it's caused cosmetic damage, but and it's gotten a lot stricter is, where you're pulling from in your mind. But in the past, if somebody saw cosmetic damage, they would think, oh, the integrity of this roof is compromised. It needs to be replaced. But that's gotten a lot more specific, like there's been a lot of, especially since like even when I was still in the agency and since I've been out of the agency, there's a lot more conversations happening around when the integrity of a roof is compromised, what granule loss looks like or does or whatever. But the unfortunate part of that is that the consumer is still getting kind of stuck in the middle. And when I say in the middle, it's in the middle, from what I believe, it's in the middle of the insurance industry and the real estate industry, because you can't sell a house with a roof that doesn't look right for the most part. Or you can, but it significantly degrades the value. And then, of course, insurance companies don't want to insure a roof that has some kind of impression of downgraded integrity, if you will. But then there's no consumer education in the middle that says when this kind of stuff happens, it's considered homeowner maintenance and you really need to be budgeting for stuff like that. So they're looking one way or the other for a solution and not getting it. So it's, the consumer is not being educated properly, but where are they going to get their education from? Anyways, sorry, that was a weird little twisty turny thing over. But yes, repainting roofs, regranulizing, I don't even know if that's the word that they use, roofs, or just putting a whole daggum another layer over top of the damaged portion of the roof. And I don't know how many apps, I could see or fill out that says how many layers, how many roofs are underneath the current layer kind of thing. That when I first discovered that people don't actually replace roofs sometimes, that they just put another roof on top of it, it was so dumbfounding to me. Now, when I was on the phone with Terrie, when we first started talking about podcasts, I enjoyed my conversation with her so much because I thrive in the weirdness and the awkward. And she had some interesting stories about some of the things that she's had to underwrite. And I think as a farmer herself, or cattle farmer, which I want to ask a lot of questions about cattle farming, but this isn't the podcast for that. What are some of the challenges or fun parts of underwriting that you've been able to experience over the years?
Just the different kind of risk in the field that I'm in. You don't see, you see a lot of your convenience stores, you see a lot of restaurants, see a lot of contractors, but then you'll get that one person in like a chicken catcher, and I'm like, what do they do? And they make like $300,000. It's a crazy amount, and I'm like, you mean they make that much money?
Look at Ashley's face. She's like, wait, say that again. They
Yes,
make
they make that much money.
300,000 catching chickens.
It's kind of like at the poultry houses, like where there's a grower house and they grow them, they go in and they catch them.
That's fascinating.
What else have you seen? Like, there's chicken catching. What else do we have? What is here in Arkansas that?
Well, I was trying. It's been so crazy with the market changing. I really haven't seen anything crazy off the wall here lately. Just your normal.
Everybody's settling down. We're not trying to do anything new this year.
Yeah, we're trying to get everything worked that's come in. The end of the year was kind of crazy and wild. And you can really see in how the market shifted the last quarter. I feel like it took a hard shift here to the hard market, even harder.
Explain what you mean by that. In what ways has it shifted?
It shifted to where you got a lot of your standard companies are getting off stuff and they're not writing what they used to write. And, like there was one company that closed down. They wrote a lot of mini storage warehouses. Well, I didn't realize there wasn't a lot of standard companies out there that wouldn't write your little mini warehouses. I can't tell you how many I've quoted. Another thing that I've seen a lot of is churches. Usually standard markets usually have like all kinds of companies for those. And there's not that many anymore. Churches are getting harder to place. Daycares are getting harder to place. That kind of stuff is coming to our field, meaning, that the standard markets don't want it.
What's the reason you think the standard markets don't want churches and daycares? What's the first thing that pops into my head is just communicable disease and what we've gone through with COVID, but I'm not part of the commercial world. So what do you think is the reason for that?
That's the first thing that pops in your head?
Mine's assault.
Okay.
Mine's maybe some abuse.
That's where I was going.
Oh,
the abuse and molestation and maybe some assault. You've seen you haven't seen it, knock on wood, here lately, but how many times have you seen to where they've left the kid in the daycare bus?
Yeah, I tend to stay out of the news, and I am an innocent, naive person. So I think of COVID over abuse first.
Is it like from the standard market perspective? Because when you said like mini warehouses or storage units, like granted I've been out of the agency for 5 years now, but I didn't have any trouble placing those if they were just basic and they weren't like the not environmental, like the temperature controlling ones. Like if it was just a standard one, we had no issue placing that with the standard market. But for the churches and for the daycares, is it the entire package, or can people split it up? Like will standard markets take the structure itself and the building and the contents, but then it's the liability portion and those products that people have to come to you for, or is it the entire thing?
Here lately, it's been the entire thing. But to give you an example, our church, of course, our church is a small church because I do live in the country. But I recently went in and we split ours up. We put the property with one company, and then we put the GL with the company that would offer some pastoral coverage for our pastor, some E&O. We had made sure we had abuse and molestation and assault and battery on there. That's the big key, is making sure, because you need that, the E&O for your pastor. You need the abuse and molestation. You need the assault. You need all those coverages. So making sure, a lot of the standard carriers aren't offering all those. Yeah, they'll give you a GL policy, but it's just basic slip and fall, and you need more than that. So I'm seeing some split up and do the property with the standard market, and then the GL with another carrier that will offer all that coverage.
Oh, that's a hard conversation to have. The words that you are using, I don't even want to hear. That's how naive and innocent my brain tries to stay.
What do you think, Terrie, in the last year? Obviously, with the hard market, I have a lot of agents calling in to me saying, hey, we've never had to deal with, ENS lines before, and now they're not taking A, B, and C, which they, standard markets typically took in the past for them. What do we do? What have you seen, like a higher influx of, I guess? Has there been anything that stood out that you said, man, we never used to get these, and now because of the hard market, we're getting all of these?
Well, a lot, the churches, the bigger churches, we used to not get a lot of those. And then you used to have a lot of habitational apartments. You had some standard carriers that would write all that stuff, and now they're not. And one of the big deals that's getting harder and harder to place, of course, you could probably do a whole episode on liquor liability.
Let's do it. You ready for part 2? Cut the episode and let's restart. No, I'm cutting. But yes, let's do it.
Yeah, because I was talking to somebody the other day, and there was an incident that happened. I said things like that is why you can't get liquor liability. We used to have, all of our carriers would write liquor liability, and now it's down to very few. And when you get down to like the nightclubs, nobody's wanting to do that. If they serve bottles, there's one company, if they serve bottles, nope, we're not touching it. So liquor liability, if it's 75% or more liquor and they're a nightclub, and I'm saying open till 2 bouncers security, that's one of the deals that's getting harder and harder and harder to place.
Should I ask why? Like, again, totally, I don't go to clubs.
Well, it's
not in commercial.
It's a lot of different ways. A lot of the insurance companies are getting drug in. That person leaves that bar overserved. They have a wreck.
Okay.
Well, then they're going back, and that insurance company, they're getting drug into those lawsuits. You've got a lot of fights breaking out. It's a lot of people now are coming back, and they're going back after their liquor liability policies, and they're picking up a lot of claims. And we had, I want to say, within a year, 4 carriers pull out of the liquor market. Said, no, we're done.
Oh my goodness. Gosh, I'm sitting here thinking like I'm getting an education today. Are we even on a podcast? See, this is what I'm saying. I loved my underwriters because I always felt like I learned something from them. And that's just where my brain loves to live, is in learning. So I've loved this conversation already. I think we're kind of coming up on the end here. I don't know what other twists or turns to take. We've identified chicken catching. You're a dairy farmer, or is it a dairy farmer or just a cattle farmer? Like you
just cattle. We got black Angus cattle with a couple of longhorns. So
yeah. So do you like sell butcher meat? Is that what you do with your cattle?
We just sell it to the local sale. We do keep one, and we eat fresh beef. We don't buy any meat from the store. We eat fresh beef. So
that's awesome. Terrie, thank you so much for joining us on Awkward Insurance today. I don't know if anybody else has felt awkward, but because I like I said, stay in my house and don't watch the news. There have been conversations that have made me feel slightly awkward today.
That's what we're here for. We're here to make you feel awkward.
Right.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for being here today, Terrie. I've had a lot of fun.
Thanks.
Toodles, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging out and listening to another Awkward Insurance Conversation.
If you haven't already, be sure to join the Awkward Insurance Facebook community. We have an amazing group of people on there.
And for more episodes, head over to the National Alliance website at scic.com. Now go forth and be awkward. Toodles!
That's awkward.